Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak team, printing money since day one. Fanspeak, forever.
We are back. Another episode of Talking Ball Steve-O Speak, or as Meg likes to call it, lunchtime drafting with Steve-O. So yeah, we're back. This is Combine Week. Players are already reporting. We won't get on-field drills for a couple of days, but it is an exciting week to talk about rookies, talk about the NFL. We're starting to get more and more rumors coming out about like franchise tags and things like that. That's going to come throughout this week. I do want to start talking about there. I saw a couple of things come through the timeline today. And but first, let me say hi to chat. We got already some people in here. We got Jamie checking in. Always appreciate that. Mike Robb, unhappy that he was not the first one. WF and Warehouse, let's go Steve, helping ladies cross the street, hitting up the early bird specials and drafting robust running back, Team Rudy. Mike Robb, appreciate this. Great members only stream they posted at midnight. Amazing breakdown on Emma Johnson. So yes, if you're a YouTube member, I'm going to be producing more and more of those videos. I did a breakdown on Emma Johnson. Definitely doing more rookies coming up, and especially after the combine when we get some data with them as well. Aiden checking in. As soon as Steve goes live, Falcons plan to franchise tag Pitts. That I've definitely seen that. I haven't seen that as an official yet, because for instance, Stephen Jones, co-owner and vice president, player personnel, or whatever of the Cowboys, confirmed that they are going to franchise George Pickens. Still could work out a long-term deal. We'll get to all that in a second. Jamie saying, let's go. Meg checking in. Let's go, brother. Lunch hour with Steve-O. And yes, siblings. We'll have our sibling showdown as always on Thursday nights. So yeah, that was some news that's been filtering in through the timeline. George Pickens pretty much locked to be franchised. That's how we've been playing it. I know there was a report the other day that he might not do off-season activities of franchise. Honestly, that is what I'd come to expect. Sadly, that is kind of the Cowboys' MO. We saw this with Micah Parsons last year, did get traded, but we saw it with Lamb. We saw it with Dak Prescott, where they were kind of holding out for a long-term deal. I'm not too worried about Pickens. I hopefully think they get a long-term deal done, but any which way, I think he is playing for the Cowboys next year, either on the franchise tag or in a long-term deal. Some of the other news, Colts and Daniel Jones are discussing a multi-year deal. So I think that is kind of as expected as well. Like, had he not gotten injured, they probably have already been done. Obviously, there's a lot of ins and outs there right now. They could franchise him if they can't get something done, but I think they'd like to do a multi-year deal, lower his cap number. That would help them either get Alec Pierce back or franchise Alec Pierce. I think that is still a possibility. So I expect, sometime by the end of the combine, we could hear like Daniel Jones is locked in. I don't expect Daniel Jones to go anywhere, though he is technically a free agent. The other thing is we've gotten a lot of news about the Jets and Breece Hall. The other day, it was kind of said that the Jets all options are on the table for a Jets franchise tag, long-term deal, or transition tag. And then it's come out more like, Jets are more likely to do transition tag than franchise tag. And then ESPN Jets reporter Rich Cimini said today the Jets are hoping for a long-term deal with Breece Hall. So I'm kind of expecting Breece Hall isn't going anywhere. And that's not necessarily great for Hall's status. But that's kind of how I'm playing it. And because I've seen some people talk about like, well, transition tag, other teams can still sign Breece Hall. Yes, that is true. And yes, there would be no compensation in return. But what a transition tag means, guarantees a certain fixed price for 1 year, similar to a franchise tag. But what it also means is the Jets have the right of first refusal. So if somebody comes in, let's say, Washington, and they sign Breece Hall to a 4-year, $48 million deal, $12 million a year, the Jets can simply just match that offer. It discourages other teams negotiating for the Jets, and B, it just can limit what teams can be involved, because some teams are going to, let's say if the Chiefs were going to go after Breece Hall, they would clearly have to backload the deal. And the Jets will obviously match any backloaded deal. The Jets, in fact, have one of the highest cap spaces as is, so they're likely to be able to match just about any deal. So I think a transition tag, though, it doesn't carry the compensation that a franchise tag would do with Breece Hall, but I think it would fairly closely lock Breece Hall in with the Jets next year, is how I would kind of project it. So I did want to mention that. We're going to get into some drafts in a second. Don't forget to hit the like button. If we get, I think, 30 likes, and hopefully more, I'd like to get up to 3 drafts done today. So hit that like button, keep me drafting. We got Pepper Tony checking in, sup pups. Hope you're doing well. TD Mr. Mufasa, what up, everyone? And JB for life. Young Mula, GM, GA, GE, best ballers, combine season. Absolutely. So let's get into our first draft, and we'll keep talking about it. As the prompt says, Meg did an article late last week on robust running back builds and how to do it for the big board season. We might try and get one of those if it works out for us. So let's count it down and get into our first draft. And in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, enter. All right, just about filled. Got Peanut Punch checking in, GM. And we need one more to fill. So yeah, I think we are going to start to get some more news. I mean, there's still plenty of stuff out there that is rumor mill. I posted an article in our Discord. By the way, if you don't know, we have free Discord you can check out. Jason Lackenfora talked about like landing spots for Mike Evans if he leaves the Buccaneers, and he mentioned the Patriots, San Francisco, and the Chargers. Chargers, I think, are a bit of a surprise. He also hinted like Eagles if AJ Brown moves on. I was mostly surprised that he didn't mention the Bills. It didn't seem like, it felt more like just basic speculation. He had a couple quotes in there, but nothing like specific from that you would specifically tie to Evans in a market or anything like that. Let's see. We got Young Mullah, GAB sitting at 1. We got The Wall, Jim Waller at 2. I am sitting at 8. Minsu, that's Aiden, is in the 9th spot. Anyone else is in here? Let me know, and let's get this draft going. So, I've been kind of playing Mike Evans as mostly back with Tampa, but my expectation is if he leaves, he goes to a good spot. And that's basically what the article was saying. Like, Evans could be looking at contenders. Not all contenders are created equal. A team like the Ravens wouldn't necessarily be as good because they are generally not as high volume. And certain situations might just not be as good. The Chargers could be a little messy, though. I would imagine if they're trading for Mike Evans and maybe signing Mike Evans and they're trading away like QJ, something like that. So, yeah, I think Evans, if he does leave Tampa, will kind of have his pick of the litter of where he wants to go. Basically, there are a lot of good teams, who could use use an outside X receiver. So I expect him to get a good landing spot, and that's why I don't worry about his current ADP. We'll start it off with James Cook. And see what gets back to me at 17. So this is my 42nd big board. So I'm a little over 1/3 done. I'm only about 6 or 7 little boards in, so roughly the same percentage, but obviously there's only 20 of those. So I'm going to take, even though I think this is rich for him, I'm going to take Jeremiah Love here. And the reason I do that is it is Combine Week. He's going to get hyped up and talked about a lot. And then the report today, or late last night, was Jeremiah Love could run at the Combine. I think that's only going to increase the hype. So I think for the next couple of weeks, we're going to see Love's ADP not fall anymore, which is unfortunate. Well, it hasn't really fallen at all, but it could actually get pushed up a little bit. And I do want a certain percentage of him. I realize I'm going to end up being underweight on him just as current ADP. So here I'll take him before it starts going even higher. As it is, I don't love taking him ahead of like Saquon and Henry, but I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to kind of be locked in there. So let me get a share of them, and we'll make it work. JB asking, you think Love runs sub 4.4? Boy, if he runs sub 4.4, he's going to go at the turn. I'm thinking low 4.4s. I definitely think he's got to be playing on sub 4.5, because I don't know why he would run if he was going to run like a 4.55 or 4.58. If he runs a sub 4.4, that's going to be pretty crazy. And some of it is so much as your start. Like you see sometimes like guys, that's why generally because not as many running backs have like track backgrounds. And so why a lot of times they don't necessarily run as fast, because usually it's the guys who were like high school track guys who just know how to get that early, quick, release, have some of the best 40 times. But Love is pretty fast. So I'm expecting it's going to be a pretty good number. So I'm going to take Kyren Williams. I'll lean into this robust build, but it's hard to argue against Kyren at this point. 3 straight years, even the last 2 years of Corm, and I know 2 years ago Corm was barely used, but even this last year when Corm was used quite a bit more, 245 points. That's quite a lot of fantasy points, and just super consistent. His usage in the passing game is a much stronger floor than others, and just touchdowns. We're talking 12 plus touchdowns every single year, combined rushing, receiving, and I just don't think you can argue, as long as this is good, and it's Sean McVay offense. This is one of the best coaches, and Stafford is, as long as Stafford's there, it's going to be good. Yeah, Claiborne would be the one running back that I could see running a sub 4.4. We had a couple last year, like Tootin did, obviously. I think somebody else did. I don't think Henderson did, but he was pretty close. All right, I'm on the clock. We're going to go super robust running back here. No, we'll go Devontae Adams. Make a Rams bet. Rams are one of the best offenses in the league. Get a second piece of that. I did consider Scadaboo. And I've done some builds starting 4 running backs. I don't truly love to do it. I don't mind doing the 3 running backs because I treat Kyron Williams. He's going to be hitting my lineup just about every week as RB1, 2, or flex. And if he's saying flex, then he's saying it above any receiver. And again, 245 points, like other receiver, only a couple of receivers are going to crack that. So that's why I'm okay starting 3 running backs. Now, when you go 4th, then it's somebody who won't be hitting your lineup every week. It can still be a strong start, don't get me wrong. But I generally like my top 5, 6, 7 picks to know that they're all playing. Like I did a team last week. We started 5 receivers in a row. Now it's extremely sick, top 5 receivers, but it's tough because I know one of those guys just not play every single week. But anyways, let's get back to Chad. Jim, while they're checking in, we had a lot of disappointments with hype round 1 running backs. Genty, Bijan, CEH being overpriced, but mid-round 2 sounds pretty nice for Love. Should land a much better spot than Genty did. No, I mean, he can. The point that I make is even after we knew, and again, Love is better than Hampton, but running back is so much about situation and opportunity, number of carries. One of the best rookie running backs we've seen in recent years was Najee Harris. Why? Because he, Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field, and he got like 120 targets as a rookie. Like he had like 90 catches. He was insane. He finished as like RB4 that year. And a bunch of touchdowns as well. Swift. I'm going to go Dunze here. So what I point to is Amari Hampton, first round running back, and worthy of first round running back. Is Love a better prospect? Sure, but Hampton was a first round capable running back. In the late summer, when Najee Harris, speak of Harris, had the issue with the eye, and it looked like this could be solely Hampton's backfield. We were only taking Hampton, who had one of the best landing spots with the Chargers. Also at the time, Rashad Slater was still going to be playing. We were only taking him like 35 to 40. So we're going to take Jeremiah Love. I took him 17 here, 17, 18, 19. Couldn't work out? Absolutely. It's just, it feels like we're paying for essentially the ceiling. And that's obviously something we do with basically anyone in the first 2 rounds. But I think it's tougher to do for a rookie. Like for instance, I say like I have a tough time taking him behind ahead of Barkley and Henry. Like we know their situations, and even in last year when both their situations were kind of rough, like they still produced. Like was Barkley a disappointment for where he went? Sure, but he was still worthy of like a 2nd round pick. Like his floor, not his floor, but like even with the situation as bad as it was last year, he was still worthy of this pick. And we know his ceiling is RB1, and RB1, like just blowing everyone out of the water. And Henry, doesn't have the same passing situation, but Henry has 1,500 yards, 15 plus touchdowns, easy in his bag. And again, his situation was hurt last year with the Lamar injury and all that. So I agree. Like there's absolutely paths where love can pay off. It just, I hate essentially fully like taking him at the ceiling, because there are situations where it just doesn't, whether it's like a Bijan situation, he ends up in more of a split workload. If let's say the Saints get him and Kamara doesn't go away, Kamara could just have all the passing work, which limits Love's like ultimate ceiling. Let's say somebody trades up for him, but it's somebody who has a decent situation. I think the Chiefs would make a lot of sense. I think Washington can make a lot of sense. But even there, like Washington, you worry about the quarterback vulturing. Does Henry still make it work? Sure. Does James Cook still make it work? Sure. But there are other quarterbacks who do vulture enough that it limits the back. So it's just something I wish we didn't have to pay this price, especially right now. Like if you tell me he gets just the perfect situation after the draft and we're taking him in the second round, that's much more palatable to me. But to me, not every situation is perfect. Chad Candle saying, did you talk about Pitt's franchise tag yet? Briefly talked about that. Do want to talk about it a little bit more because I saw it right as I was going live. Let me make this pick. I will take Stevenson here. I think that's a tier break and kind of falling. So yeah, it sounds like Kyle Pitts is going to be. I think it was Ian Rappaport said they're likely to franchise tag Kyle Pitts. I think that makes sense for them. I wasn't sure if they would do it, and I think that's honestly good for Kyle Pitts' current ADP. I don't think he should go back up to the 40s or anything like that. But for his current ADP, Kevin Stefanski has had a good track record with tight ends. And with them spending that kind of money on him, he's probably to be featured second in the passing offense. Do I take Kyle Pitts here? That is the question. You know what? Sure, why not? I like him at this 90-ish ADP. So don't have a quarterback yet. Probably stop at 5 running backs with 4 in the top 80 like this. Still like this receiver core, and we do need to catch up at quarterback. But I think that's okay for Kyle Pitts I actually think it's pretty good. I mean, could you point to maybe 1 or 2 spots that are a better situation for Kyle Pitts? Probably, but I actually think back with the Falcons and Stefanski, that's a pretty good spot for him. We got Huheems checking in. Sup, fam? Hope you're doing well. Huheems and I will be on tomorrow on his channel. I'll be going live around 1 again. And then Huheems and I will go live on his channel afterwards as we continue diving deeper into some topics. I think we're going to talk, we're finalizing it, but I think it will probably be more around rookies in the combine. So I'm sitting at 0431, Young Mula 2331, Jim Waller 1521, and Aiden here 2240. So let's take Baker. If Mike Evans is back, I got a stack. If not, I'll live. I don't mind Godwin's ADP. And, I could double up at another quarterback when he comes back to me. I think Darnold is fine. You point up a little bit, but we'll see what else gets back. Up in 1. Aiden takes my guy, Emma Johnson. Can't hate on that pick at all. Let's take a look at ADP. I'll go Chris Godwin just in case. I kind of prefer Wandell there, but I think Godwin's fine. And if Evans does leave, then Godwin should be going higher. I mean, saying my thought is basically what numbers or drills we want to see from certain players and which players need a good combine and which it shouldn't affect as much. Yeah, they're definitely, and I think one issue that some people struggle with the combine is they think it's just a listing and you should just go by 40 time or short shuttle or bench press or vertical or long jump and go in order. But it's also a lot of it is based on type of player and body type. So if it's somebody who's expected to be fast, they should run fast. That was the issue with like Tez Johnson last year. People thought he'd be faster. He did not. He still showed he actually can play in this league. But we want him to be fast. But like a more big physical receiver, do they have to run a sub 4.4? No, they don't. I mean, if they can, great. But let me make my pick. Yeah, we will go quarterback here. Grab Darnold, guy who's fairly easy to backstack. And same with running back. Like, he didn't run until his pro day, but people were so worried about the Cam Scatterboot time. And it's like, he's clearly, I don't care that Bayshall Tootin can outrun him in a 40 time. We know that Scatterboo's the better back. Like, it doesn't matter by that perspective. And that's why you should judge him by his peers. The people I compared Scatterboo to were like the David Montgomery types. He ran exactly in the same range as that. Certain receivers, like same sort of thing. Like, a couple years ago, and I think Worthy's time 100% helped him, but that didn't mean that like a Lad McConkey, who was fast in his own right, is worse than Worthy. I think McConkey was always a better pick. Let's make a pick here. I'm just going to lean Romeo Dubs over Shaheed, though I think they're both fine picks in this range. GABC, I'm not sure Concepcion runs the 40 as fast as many expect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do think he needs that a little bit better, just because that is a big part of his game. I actually still expect a good number. I don't think it's like sub 4.4, but 4.42, 4.44, something like that. I think that's the ballpark where we are talking about. Is Johnson about to take over the Mike Evans role? Scrappy do. I mean, it is about as opposite of a body type as you can get. But I will say Tez Johnson filled in very admirably last year. And, if Evans moves on, I think Tez Johnson will be the 4. Everyone moves up a notch. So sitting at 2.451. Coming up here, quarterback's gotten pretty picked over, so I might be waiting. Wouldn't mind getting a 5th running back here, and then I could feel done about it if I get, hitting the right range. Also could end up stopping at 2 tight ends when I go Kyle Pitts if I get somebody worth talking about. So I'm going to take Kyler. A little fall here. Don't know where he ends up. Could be Atlanta with Kyle Pitts. But I'm not going to be too worried about it. So I've got quarterback locked up. Now just focusing on filling out these other positions. Kamara's definitely in play coming up. He goes. Travis Kelce goes. I will. I'm pull up Sean Tucker here. I think I can be done at running back. Maybe I tack on the 6 if something falls to me. I'm okay being done at running back here with these 5. And, you know, Tucker is part of a team stack as well. Fly Fishing, I think a better question is which combine winners have been good fantasy picks as rookies? I did a very preliminary look aside from Christian Watson, not much value there. I think we do have to define what a winner is because, for instance, a guy like I mentioned before, like Lad McConkey, he ran well, wasn't elite time, but he looked good in drills, and that did help him. And I think people recognize that he was a winner. I don't know why teams took, people took Xavier Legette over him, but that's an NFL. Though it can be an issue of like, what are we defining as quote unquote winners? But I do think, we hear this a lot. Like people were knocking Harold Fannin after the combine. Like that's where the question mark started. Oh, is he big enough? Can he run? He's not running like some other guys, and yet he was just as good of a tight end as Warren and Loveland. So I do agree, like the hype bubble, there ends up being a lot more noise than there should be. Let's go AJ Barner here. So still only 5 receivers, definitely doing 9. Could go 10 if need be. Pitts and Barner, I'd be okay stopping at 2, but probably will tack on a 3rd there. I think we're going to go 5 running backs, 9 receivers with this build. So I think the biggest thing that comes from this is people need to stop treating the 40 like it's the be all end all. I get it. Like it's the one drill that we see every single person run. It gets clipped on Twitter and YouTube and everything else. But it's more about just hitting ranges. You don't have to always be the fastest, particularly long speed. All right. If we go trade Tucker, get back in the receiver department. Like the tight ends there, but I can wait. Yeah, this should be a good talk tomorrow with Who Hames. And as expected, Mendoza is not going to throw at the combine. He's going to throw at Indiana Pro Day, which is, he's not only does he have Cooper and Surratt that he'll be thrown to at the Pro Day, but they're like fullback tight end. Nikwowski, I can't pronounce his last name. He'll be there. Sometimes the underclassmen can participate as well. So I expect that to be pretty crisp and look pretty good. But teams just want to see him throw, just not quote unquote hiding. So I'm not surprised he's not throwing at the combine, which means combine passers could be pretty rough this year. A lot of questionable quarterbacks. do expect, since Simpson's expected to throw, that there will be some hype around him. Even if he gets first round capital, I'm going to have a tough time drafting him. Fish saying, just a lot of fool's gold. I maxed low board and was concerned no combine info, but frankly, frequency seems far more valuable than combine performance. Yeah, I think I'll let me make my pick and then want to comment on this. So we get Schultzy back. I think that's the direction I go. I think that's just a screaming value. My thing is, and I talked about this some in our Discord with Legion 13, Paul, he's actually maxed everything so far. So unless Underdog drops anything else, he's not going to be drafting again until after, the NFL draft and BBM launches. I don't worry about combine. Like, I'm honestly not looking at it to help me draft more guys. I actually think there's a couple guys who might end up, quote unquote, being hurt by the combine. Particularly somebody who doesn't run, like Singleton, who would have looked great at the combine. He's not going to run. He's not going to work out. So he might slide even more. Surratt, who's probably not going to have the fastest time, could slide a little bit more. Some of the fast guys, like a Chris Brazell, could jump up the board because he runs like a 4.45, kind of similar to Dante Thornton last year, where people started talking about Thornton after that. You don't need tight end. I'm going to go Ryan Flournoy. Actually, let me take Cup. I like it. I like the value. I have Darnold. Get a veteran there. But yeah, like a guy like Chris Brazell, Jacoby Lane, they could move up the draft board. Branch, because he's expected to run well. But I'm just going to go more on my priors on these guys. So if they get to a range that's just not worth it to me, then I'm already out on some of these guys as is. I just won't draft them anymore if they get to a range that it's just not worth it. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But as much as I love Omar Cooper Jr., if he blows out the combine and somehow starts going in the top like 100, that's pretty rich for me. So I'll probably be out until I see it. Like, if he then gets drafted in the late first round and is worthy of that pick, then sure, I might be back in after the draft. But I'm not going to. I don't want to go over extreme on any of these rookies if their ADPs get too much. Like, for instance, if Jadarian Price, who I expect to run as well for Notre Dame, he's also very fast. If he runs like, he might run faster than Love. And if he starts going pick 60, I'll maybe take him, but probably not a ton. All right. Speaking of 9 receiver build, I will keep taking Keenan Allen. Just too much potential for value. This ends up being an 8 receiver team. I'm not dead. And I think I'll try and get a young guy here. To round out this team. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the overall build of this team. 3-5-8-3 with 1 pick to go. I have a ton of Jeremy Bernard, so I think I'm going to just lean in Chris Bell, another guy I prefer more in like a 9 wide receiver build. He fortunately tore his ACL late in the year. I believe had the procedure done early December. he should be back at some point. I'd expect him to probably start the year in PUP, but could be back mid-year, if not a little sooner. And yeah, it might take a little time for him to work his way into a role, but he really would have been pushing to be wide receiver 4 or 5 in this draft class, if not for the injury. So let me see if I can get some late round value there. Right, I end up 3.593, and then go over the other teams. Baker, Darnold, Kyler. So 3 start. Even though I wait, I get 3 starting quarterbacks. You know, I mean, look, 2 years ago with Vikings, Darnold was extremely good. Baker, same that year and the year prior. And Kyler, in the past, has been a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. So upside with this group as well that maybe not everyone gives it the credit for. Cook, Love, Kyron Williams. So went running back early. And I think 3 guys who are just going to be locked into big roles. We'll have to see what exactly that is for Love. So, you know, maybe, again, taking him at his peak, but I don't want 0. So I will take some. It's just, it doesn't feel as good. But either way, I like that start. And in Ramondre, who, you know, should be the Patriots lead back, and Sean Tucker, the number 2 back, feels good there. And stopping at 5, I think is doable with that group. Devontae Adams, Rome Odunze, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So, you know, 4 relatively early receivers. We'll see about what happens with Evans and Godwin, if they're both with Baker or not. Either way, feel good about that. Romeo Doubs, you know, another free agent, but I think plenty of places where he can land and have some extra value. Trey Tucker, you know, probably the Raiders are going to bring in some help, but still should have a decent role. Cooper Kupp, I think the number 2, and of course stacked with Darnold. Keenan Allen, maybe he hangs it up, but if he's back, I just, at a minimum, I think he's going in the top 150. And as we saw last year with the raid situation, could go much higher. And then finally, Chris Bell, as I mentioned, a rookie with a little upside, obviously dealing with an injury. Kyle Pitts, I don't know if the franchise tag will move his ADP back up, but I figured I'd take a shot here. And personally, I like him back with Atlanta, so I feel good about that. Tacking on AJ Barner, part of the stack, and Dalton Schultz, and getting them both at even more value. I think they're both currently undervalued as is, and I think getting extra value is, you know, just a steal. So Young Mula here at the 1 spot, 2.792. He went 2 quarterbacks early, May and Caleb back to back. That is a nice combo there, as they're both entering their 3rd year, and as we saw last year, had big jumps in year 2. Bijan, Bucky, so kind of the double anchor there, but then Jadarian Price, who, you know, a rookie with a lot of potential. Jonathan Brooks, you know, this is a guy, if he can stay healthy, might have a nice role. He mentioned Claiborne in chat, and I you know, late like this, I like Claiborne. I think he probably ends up as a 4th rounder, but some speed, pass catching ability. And he took a couple dart throws at the end with projected number 2 backs and like Jordan James and Isaiah Davis. You know, probably best for him if Breece Hall moves on, but, you know, taking a shot there, Davis is, I get it. Luther Burn, Carnell Tate, DJ Moore, then Jalen Coker, Matthew Golden, Brandon Ayuk, Chamari DK, Torrey Horton, Calvin Ridley. So a lot of, you know, even some of these guys probably don't, you know, end up like, I think Moore gets traded. So it might not be a stack, but still, I think solid value. You know, we'll have to see where Ayuk goes. We'll have to see where like Ridley goes. But overall, you know, nice mix of like 2nd year or young receivers and, you know, rookie like Tate. So it's a young upside, generally speaking, a young upside wide receiver room, where maybe if Ayuk gets a good landing spot, Ridley gets a good landing spot, it's even better. 2 tight ends, Brock Bowers, and then the rookie Sadiq. Yeah, that's a nice build. Jim Waller, 3.593. Dak, Cam Ward, Michael Penix, And then he was kind of similar to me, taking running back early and often. Gibbs, Scadaboo, Quinshon Judkins, Jalen Warren, and then he tied it up a little earlier and definitely to me nicer with Tyler Algier. Receivers, George Pickens, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings. So he kind of went double anchor wide receiver and then waited, took a couple guys in that early in 100s tier, Juwan Jennings and the rookie Casey Concepcion, Tyreek Hill, Omar Cooper Jr., Zachariah Branch, Rashard Bateman, Christian Kirk. So threw some volume at it in a mix of like veterans and rookies, hoping, Tyreek Hill's, healthier. But it's one of those, like, you have some depth if for some reason you're not. And then tight end wise, Sam Laporta, and then waited very late for Gunnar Helm and Colby Parkinson. Kind of balanced all around. Kind of went running back early, mixed in with a couple early wide receivers, and then balanced it with volume. And then we had Minshew in here as well. Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jacoby Brissett, a running back room of Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, like double anchor. Then you got my guy, Emma Johnson, which I think is a good, strong third running back. Jordan Mason, Taj Spears, Tank Bigsby, and Brashard Smith. Receiver room, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, Brian Thomas, Michael Wilson, Xavier Worthy. Strong top five. I think Worthy is very underpriced. I have some wariness about Michael Wilson, just where he's currently going, and Brian Thomas, but I know the upside is there. So you're betting on that upside. And of course, you got Mr. Reliable Amon-Ra in the first round, and then tacked on a couple other receivers, Josh Downs and Ted Hurst. Tight end wise, took Kelsey, and then a couple of vets to solidify the room, Frymuth and K-Dot. So good teams all around. Let's go to the chat real quick, and then we will get into another draft. We got Al Boogie checking in. I hope you're doing well, Al. Hit him in with the gritty checking in. Stevenson going to be going in round 4 by August. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I agree. I think him and Henderson's ADP should flip, and probably, by August they will. So that's why I'm taking quite a bit of him now, because I'll still take him. I'm going to want the Patriots' number 1 running back, and more of a touchdown guy in this year. So I'm going to take him now. GB, I'm hoping DJ Moore gets traded for this build. I agree. I do agree with that. Flyfish saying I'd love to see San Francisco trade for DJ Moore, and Boohaves agreeing that he would fit well there, and I fully agree as well. I think Moore to San Francisco makes a lot of sense. Hurst is definitely a guy who could boost with the combine. I will be interested to see what he runs, I expect him to have a good combine. Aiden, not my favorite team at all, but why not take a shot at that? Boy, Hurst, yeah. We got Bendels checking in a little lunchtime, Steve, just what I need. Appreciate that, Bendels. Hope you are doing well. Let's get into another draft. And we're going to enter another big board. And I'll count it down. Aaron in 10 seconds. Aaron in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. So still waiting on 7 people to jump in. You want to do a draft now? Refresh to make sure. So it sounds like the Falcons are hoping to work out a long-term deal, but they are going to franchise Pitts to make sure it is not an option for anyone else. And I think it makes sense. I mean, he's still so young. Injuries slowed him down a little bit in his career, but we saw last year what the upside can be. And I do think, because if Pitts left, not only would they need a tight end, but they really would have needed to prioritize the second wide receiver. Now, even if they let go of Mooney, second wide receiver doesn't need to take the same level of priority. In with the Gritty saying, starting Wednesday, you'll see me in the big boards a lot. Going on a lot of work trips and vacations over the next 2 months. Naheem saying he's been in the drafters streets. Yeah, so far I've only done a couple fast in drafters. Mainly, I'm in a bunch of slows in drafters. Same in DraftKings. I've mainly just been doing slows there. Yeah, Gritty cannot draft where he's at right now for UD, which is unfortunate. It's amazing he gets the volume that he can get. No, and I agree. And Grady knows this. I like that he's a man with his convictions, and he goes with it. And he, generally, I know he has good advance rates. So I'm glad to hear that he's going to be getting back in these streets pretty soon. All right, King QC is in the 4th spot. Aiden is in the 5th spot. I'm in the 7th spot. And that is all I see, or at least recognize from chat. Let me know anyone else who's in here. There's JB, there's still, I don't know, 8 states maybe that you can't draft in. So Maine is apparently one of them. Nevada, I know. Is it both Oregon and Washington? At least one of them. I believe Louisiana you can't. One or two others. So yeah. And I think Connecticut is another one. Yeah, Canada is weird. I think essentially only the province that Cody is in, because other Canadian drafters have to, best ball players have to use drafters because Underdog's not available. Appreciate this, Aiden. Always love solo stream. Steve, you're killing it. Appreciate that. Do wonder what the Dynasty fantasy football scene is like in prison. Yeah, those trades in prison have to be more intriguing. All right. So coming up at the 7th spot, did James Cook last draft. Probably won't do the same thing this draft. Yeah, I'll do Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I get it. This is a guy who coming off the year before, missed time, but 3 years of 300 plus points, just nobody can match that kind of level. The consistency, 3 of the last 4 years. Maybe it's a bad year again. But yeah, I think it was, I talked about this with FK early, a fade. I think zero drafting Christian McCaffrey is just a mistake. Even if you're adamantly against him, you believe in the age cliff, whatever, I think you need to have at least 4%. And I truly think not drafting him is 6%. His upside is just too high. He can truly make or break your team. And, he was one of the best running backs all last year and in the playoffs. Didn't have as good of a run as Bijan, but it's pretty close. And, I just don't want to be turning over the cards and having like 1% Christian McCaffrey. That is just not an outcome I want to have. And if he gets hurt, he has a bad year, he has like Saquon's year, something like that. No, if he has Saquon's year, it's not killing you. And if he gets hurt, and it's like 2 years ago, okay, yeah, I still advanced Christian McCaffrey teams that year. It was much harder. They didn't do as well, but I just don't want to have 0 or like 1 or 2%. That's me. I know some people might view that differently, but I think, and honestly, for everyone in like the first 2 rounds, I probably want to be about 4%. I'll go McCaffrey, Saquon. I mean, 2 guys with RB1 upside that I'm not paying the RB1 price for. Feels good. The tight ends, Bowers and McBride, I might be a little under 4%, particularly in this pre-draft. But everyone else in the top 2 rounds probably want a minimum of 4%. Really, I would boycott these states. Cali was talking about pulling the plug for a minute. I'd start a petition if they do. Yeah, California would obviously be bad for the community, similar to New York last year for that minute when they were out. Yeah, Louisiana I mentioned. I'm not sure this is what Flyfish was saying, that his home state, if it's something else. All right, we are coming up. Do I go 3 running backs in a row? Mix it up this draft? We'll see. So Jacobs, Kenneth Walker. Pretty saying I can already tell my highest exposures the first couple of rounds. Oh wait, let me make these picks and then I'll get back to that comment. I'll do another Kyron team. Are going to be McCaffrey plus Saquon plus Henry. I mean, if you can get all 3, that's insane. And maybe that's what you're talking about, like pulling McCaffrey up and then trying to hope to get like the Saquon Henry more at the 2-3 turn. I think that can be tough to land, but that'd be a fun one to land, that's for sure. I definitely think Saquon and Henry are being undervalued. And again, going back to what I talked about earlier, that's why I just have a tough time taking Jeremiah Love above those 2. Because they just have clear RB 1 through 3 upside, like absolute slate breakers. Like they can be this year's Jonathan Taylor, mid-second round, who just crushes all year. Triple RB Steve today, yeah. Well, I did mention the R-Bust, how to do R-Bust builds. If I do a third one and we try and mix it up a little bit, but it's just tough. Like when it came back to me, T. Higgins, I could have done Josh Allen. These other receivers just don't inspire me the same level. And that's why it's such a tough time in this 3rd round. It's just few receivers. Like, can Zay Flowers pay off there? Can Garrett Wilson pay off there? But just a much thinner needle to thread. And same with T-Mac. Like, I get it. He is a rookie with 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, but it's also Bryce Young is your quarterback. The offense is just average-ish. Oh, man. I was going to mix it up with JMO. I don't know if I want to do Fonte again. I'll just do it. I'll do the 4 running back build. I won't only do 4 running backs. I'll add a 5th, but 4 in a row. I can now wait quite a bit. And yeah, I'll need to catch up at receiver. This definitely is going to be a 9 receiver team, maybe even 10. I just didn't want to do another Kyron and Devontae Adams team. I mean, why are people still drafting Rice in the 3rd round? That's a fair question. I don't know. I know there's a lot of unknowns, and we've seen situations like that end up working out where the player doesn't get suspended or anything. It's just Rice has kind of already used those, he did get suspended last year, but even the year before, people thought for the longest time that he'd get suspended. But I just think if the NFL has the opportunity to, if there's any smoke there at all, I think the NFL comes down hard on him. So yeah, I just can't take him in the top 3 rounds myself. So right now it's a civil case, but his longtime girlfriend and mother of his child, maybe children, I'm not sure, came out saying, originally a couple months ago, hold on, let me make my pick. We'll go Christian Watson here. And claiming abuse, both physical and emotional abuse, and now has a civil case going that came out last week. And it does not sound good from the write-up, and it is, yes, currently alleged, no guarantees there that's 100% what happened, but it doesn't sound good. And it apparently went on over a couple-year time period. So this wasn't a one-off incident. This wasn't, something that I think the NFL or even the team is going to take lightly if they find there's anything there. So 0-4-1-0, as I mentioned last time, I'm not a huge fan of these builds, whether it's 5 receivers in a row or 4 running backs in a row, just because such an early pick won't be hitting my lineup every week. Does this increase my floor and ceiling ability at running back? Absolutely. But this time I probably will go even later than I did with Sean Tucker, or at least the Sean Tucker range. Like the last one, I wanted to do more what Jim Waller did and do a 5th, kind of in the hundreds, just didn't pan out. But this time, it's definitely stopping at 5, and can wait even a little bit longer. So I like this trio of receivers. I did Evans last time. I think it's probably the best play, but I think DK Metcalf's pretty strong as well. Don't mind Marv there. So 0-4-2. Like I said, probably a 9 receiver build. Right now, if I get the right tight end combo, I could stop at 2 there and make it a 10 wide receiver build. But that would be more dependent. GB saying, geez, this guy Rice can't seem to get out of his own way. No mercy if he's guilty of domestic violence. No tolerate. Yeah. And that's, I mean, look, I think I agree, like in general, like domestic violence is horrible. But a lot of guys, it's like their first offense. And I'm not excusing that. But with Rice, this is why I think the NFL comes down hard, is he essentially told them, like, I'm going to be a choir boy. And, that's clearly not what's happened. Or I shouldn't say clearly, but that's allegedly not what's been happening. And I don't think the NFL is going to forgive that too easily. I'll get a quarterback here. Consider Kraft. I do have Watson. The receivers are fine in this range, but grabbing a quarterback with still elite upside, like Herbert, Lawrence, or Dak, I like in this 7th round range. I'm saying I have no idea the timeline and stuff alleged, so it might have all been from before the original incident, although I doubt the NFL cares. What I saw, and I think a lot of it probably was, but what I saw was multiple instances between 2023 and 2025. So while it might have been 2025 before he was actually suspended last year, it's definitely after his other legal incidents, which he was suspended for, which, those occurred in 2024, I believe. So yeah, I am going to guess the NFL is not going to be too happy. I do have a tough time taking QJ here at 86 or 90 in this case, even with Herbert. A lot of pads where might not be the guy that we think he's going to be. He goes, so I don't have to make that decision. Pitts or Laporta, I think are fine. They go Michael Pittman though. Definitely feeling me a little bit more at receiver. Could stay with the Colts. Could be a situation where he gets traded. I don't think he gets cut. I mean, that would be crazy. I think he's been a very productive receiver throughout his NFL career, even if he hasn't hit like an elite level. So he could get traded, but I think the Colts just trying to run it back. This Colts staff, they need to get to the playoffs. Like they've, honestly played well under Steichen, despite all the issues. But I just don't think they can risk not putting the best offensive product out on the field. So my guess he stays in Indy, and but even if he is traded, I think it most likely ends up being an upgrade. Mike Robbs asking, when you review ownership percentage for, let's say, Superflex drafts, are you looking at team stacks or quarterback stacks, like Jordan Love and Josh Allen advance rates, or the quarterback with his receivers more? We already have this debate as is with how important stacking is in regular drafts. It's less important in Superflex because A, there's 2 quarterbacks should be in your lineup. And B, I'm about to make a pick, is you're taking all those quarterbacks ahead of essentially just about all of them ahead of any stacking partner, right? in some, it was next to impossible. Like, you're not getting Burrow Chase. They essentially go next to each other in drafts. We'll go Jordan Love for a second quarterback. Gadsden consideration, but let's get the second quarterback stacked with Christian Watson. So I care more. I would care, in looking back a day, looking more at like advance rates of which quarterbacks, help me advance. Because if you can backstack those guys later, great. But look at Matt Stafford. Like, now you could get him a little later, so you could stack him with Puka. Could definitely stack him with Adams. But for me, getting Stafford is just going to mean more. If you have those stacks, great. Like, it did very well because Adams was great for most of the year, and then Puka, of course, in the playoffs and down, and also total points. But it's just not as much of a worry, just because, so many of the quarterbacks are relying on the run, or it's just, like Caleb, I'm sure had a good advance rate, but you needed to thread that needle, like Adunze the first couple weeks, Burton the last week, Loveland in between, DJ Moore here and there. It's just, if the value works, great. If it doesn't, that's kind of how I feel on stacks in general, and just Superflex even less so. So getting the quarterbacks, and last year getting the healthy quarterbacks was the absolute key. I'll go Wandell here. Appreciate that, GAB. Getting the double like, switching over to your burner account. Always appreciate that. Somebody wouldn't mind telling me, because I'd have to bring up YouTube separately, how many likes are we at? We got Paulino checking in. Hope you're doing well. Doing good, Paulino. This is my second draft of the day. Micro, 38 legs. Appreciate that, guys. I would definitely be doing a third draft. Midway through this one. We are sitting at 244. We need more help at wide receiver. This probably ends up being a late tight end build. Could like to get another receiver with this pick. Yeah, team very much appreciates that insight. So we didn't grab too many, not need ownership percentage, save me a bit of time. And can you stress there? Well, thank you, Mike. Shakir falling here is a nice value. So let me grab that. Omar Cooper keeps getting more buzz. Jeremiah Hammond 19 in his top 50. Okay, like I said before, now's the time to get Omar Cooper Jr. because if that buzz keeps happening, he might go top 100 in drafts after the combine. And that's going to be a tough price for me. Even if he does sneak into the first round, again, I think Concepcion's a late first round pick, and he's going still between the 120, 130 range. So 67% on DK isn't crazy. And drafters. Yeah, I'm gonna have to up my percentages there also. Because boy, he could be flying up boards. I haven't heard if any of the top 3 receivers are expected to work out. I think Tyson would probably look the best. Lemon actually might not put up the greatest numbers, which I still don't care. I think he's a great receiver. Still not going to really change my evaluation at all. If it gets him to fall around, I'll be happy about it. That's about it. Could look at a third quarterback here. Shaheed also makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go Malik Willis. I'm going to make sure I'm getting more of him. After he signs, I expect him and Kyler to be the biggest risers after they get their landing spots. And, so when I'm getting them in the 130s, 140s, I think both could push to like 115-ish if they get positive landing spots. If they end up on the Jets and Browns, they might not rise that much. But overall, I want to be taking them now before free agency hits. FK saying if Cooper Jr. goes ADP 100, just means nobody learned anything from last year. Yeah, pretty much. Like, could we get to BBM and he's going there, and let's say he goes, to the Bills. Not to me that I want to see him get an opportunity to be in the slot, so that wouldn't be the greatest place. Let's just say the Bills at the end of the first round. Like, could I still take him pick 100? Yeah, but I want to know the landing spot's good. Paulina, yeah, Huham says made a stand on Cooper, but I agree. Like, I want to have as much data to be taking many rookies in the top 100. That's why I'm smashing Emma Johnson now. Jadarian Price, where he's going, he already is in the top 100, but I like Price when he's going in the 90s, not 80s. Could that change post-draft? Absolutely. But there, I think the whole running back market's going to change at that point. Not like any receiver in this range. Not really a Sadiq fan. Just pull up Mark Andrews. And the same to an extent to wide receivers. Like, like if Cooper Jr. starts going pick 100, now I have to take him above, or right around Xavier Worthy. No, like I know where Worthy is. I know what his upside can be. Just not making sense. Raheem saying he's out on Cooper at ADP 120 in the big board. Yeah, that's about where I'm looking at. What's the list of players you're looking to spotlight in your overview streams for members? Maybe entice some people to sub for that spicy Steve content. So next couple will be Mendoza. I just want to do a deeper dive into him. Cooper Jr., Surratt, Denzel Boston. I'll probably eventually get to the top 3 receivers, but they're not the priority. I don't know if I'll do one on Love or not. Maybe I might wait till more post-draft to just see where his landing spot is. Could do one on Price. So those are the next couple names I'm looking at. All right, let's see what gets back to me. Yeah, I talked about that a little earlier, Paulina. Let me take Kelsey here. That's why I took him in my first draft, because I think his testing could push him towards the turn. So, let me take a couple more shots right now. That is, but he'll be fun to watch. But I do think he's going to get really steamed up if he runs well. I'm saying Rice suspended, Cooper drafted in second to Kansas City. Where does he go? Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I agree. And now, but this is, again, I'd be absolutely okay taking Cooper in the top 100, even post draft, and then say we get the Rice suspension news. Yeah, because I think he would be perfect fit for Patrick Mahomes. But I want to know that data. Tried 2 round 7, 8 tight ends for the first time. It feels right. Nice. Let's look at Aiden's team. He took Fannin Laporta back to back. Yeah, that's a good group. And then he just tacked on AJ Barner to go along with Sam Darnold. So yeah, that turns out to a really strong tight end room. Yeah, I don't do the middle round tight ends as much, just because right now the running back tier just drops off and the quarterback starts to drop off. But I do like those tight ends quite a bit. All right, I think I go Franklin here. DK was definitely in the mix as well. Let's get me 6 receiver. Do need a running back at some point. I'm still probably stopping 5 no matter who I end up with. I was hoping I could get Trey Harris back, but I might not get him back. I'm not going to worry if I don't have a stack for Herbert. And the Franklin value at 175 with this ADP at 163, 164. I'm going to take. I say give Rice the Das Boot and let's begin Royals season. No, I mean, right now, Jalen Royals, he's wide receiver 3 on the team, even with Rice. And yeah, he could definitely be in consideration to move up if something happens there. Those tight ends, in my opinion, project similar points as players around them. Yeah, definitely the receivers in that range for the most part. Running backs, it's more like, if Rico Dowdle gets a big role, if Tyler Algier gets a role, then they have the path for, 180, 200 points. Those tight ends, that's a much tougher path, right? But I do agree. My issue is, I think this area of the tight end market is just flat out wrong. And starting where I took Mark Andrews. Strange and Goddard in the 130s is kind of crazy to me. But Juwan Johnson, Mark Andrews, Hunter Henry, I don't fully understand why they're going so late. So I grabbed Omar Cooper Jr. there. Thank God for ranks, because I totally missed that. But sometimes that works out for you. This is why I need to pay more attention. So, whoops. But worked out in my favor. Trey Harris going 1 pick before me. But that tight end range just feels completely wrong. And particularly Kelsey as well. It's sounding more and more like he's back. Again, guy finished tight end 3 last year, and 8 or 9 in points per game. And even Barner feels really good in that range. And then even this next group, like Schultz, he goes higher than he normally does. I got him at like 200 last time. But these guys, Njoku, you can see either side. If Pitt's being bad, Njoku probably lost his best landing spot to the Falcons. But, likely Theo Johnson, Njoku, even Hawkinson, like depending on where he lands, these guys feel good. Feel like a lot of potential for surplus value. And it's Laporta, those tight ends, Gadsden, Kincaid are all good, but like Ferguson at 132, he can outscore them, or at least get in that same ballpark. Just take my guy Emmanuel Wilson as my 5th running back. So I'm now done at running back, done at quarterback. Just going to focus on these 2 positions. With 2 more receivers and 1 more tight end. I mean, honestly, Andrews and Kelsey, I think, could be a fine tight end room. Just some slight injury risk here, and Kelsey still hasn't officially come back yet. Yeah, and I know Ferg struggled a bit down the stretch. He was a little banged up, and I think some people correlate that with Lamb being back. I actually think it was more just some variance. I mean, Ferg was just a red zone machine, and unfortunately, some of those games just didn't get in the red zone as much. And then there were other things like, you remember the Chiefs Thanksgiving game, Ferguson had what looked to be a gorgeous touchdown catch, but just barely didn't get the second foot down. Like, we're talking by a millimeter. So he would have had a good game that week. He got hurt on Christmas Day game after he got a touchdown already. He could have smashed Washington in that game. Let's go 3rd tight end here. Don't have a ton of Mason Taylor. Don't have a lot of Jets, but I think should do it. So that'll be my 3rd tight end. I generally take like Otten or Pat Frymuth. I feel better about them, but I want some Mason Taylor. So like Ferguson's a guy to me. Yeah, he ended the season kind of cold. And then he was out week 18 also, if you're looking at like total points. But there was just a lot of ways like he could have still been smashing down the stretch. He was still getting red zone targets. I think the Cardinals game, he had 2 red zone targets. Could have come down with either one, stuff like that. All right, let's see. Coming up, make 2 more receivers. So just focused here. So I think I go maybe 1 vet, 1 young guy. Take a shot with Jack Besh. Did like Ted Hurst, but Slayton, Hollywood. I think what Baltimore does is going to be very interesting. They have Bateman under contract. I think he stays under contract, but I'm not going to be surprised if they prioritize adding a receiver either in draft or free agency, in which case Bateman can now be pushed kind of more towards like a clear third role and kind of fighting with Walker for that role. I don't think he gets cut, but that's my kind of concern with Bateman. So I'm not going to have a ton of him. Good Fantasy Football Grows checking in. GM. Hope you're doing well. And we will take this last pick and then we'll go through the drafts and get into a final draft. I don't have much Bailey. I mean, I think they had something. Hollywood is a free agent nobody's talking about. Could get tacked on somewhere as a top 3 receiver. I think I would just lean Slayton here. This point in the year. But with the Wandale as a free agent, Neighbors recovery timeline a little murky. I do assume the Giants had in bringing someone, but the thing is, if they bring in like a pure slot, Slayton's role is very safe. If they bring in an outside guy, maybe Slayton takes a hit, but honestly, it could just mean Neighbors is like their main slot, and Slayton still is like playing some. So I wrapped it up. A 3.593, second of those of the day. Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Malik Willis. So 3 quarterbacks. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Cam Scadaboo. Don't generally love taking 4 straight running backs, but decided this would be a fun room to do it with. Emmanuel Wilson is the tack-on guy. At the end, receivers kind of went, 4 relatively early. Did like the Shakir value here. So it feels like kind of 5 relatively early. Watson, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., and Wandale Shakir. We'll need some luck with, the Steelers quarterback situation and then the outlook for these 3 receivers. I think Troy Franklin remains underpriced. Omar Cooper Jr., that was an accident pick, but, my rankings helped ensure that I'd get him. And as we talked about before, he could be flying aboard, so I like that quite a bit. And tacking on Jack Bash and Darius Slayton at the very end. 3 tight ends, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and then a younger guy in Mason Taylor. King QC went 3.683. Purdy, Bo Nix, Kirk Cousins, Jacobs, Javonte Williams, who is moving up. I will increase him in the ranks, moving up a little faster than I thought, but probably this is, he should be going ahead of Harvey and Henderson. So I like that range. I think I need to start moving him up more. Takes Henderson as well, Emmett Johnson. So 4 running backs that you should feel pretty good about adding in Sean Tucker and Singleton. So that's a running back room I like. I like Henderson. I just don't love his price. Hopefully he starts to fall some with the Javonte news. Chase, Mike Evans, Alec Pierce, Debo, Shaheed, adding in Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims, and Jalen Knoll. So, Bryant and Mims with Bo Nix. Brock Purdy, maybe we see Mike Evans end up there. You could see, Alec Pierce or Debo or Shaheed there. So a lot of potential to end up with a Purdy stack, even though you didn't get it. You took Tonjes late, but you didn't intend it with one of those guys. And then Bowers, Isaiah Likely, and Jake Tonjes. So good all around room. And Purdy and Nix is a double tap in that range, and then tacking on Cousins late. We got Aiden's team 3.773, Goff, Darnold, Cam Ward, Kenneth Walker, RJ Harvey, Tyron Tracy, Taj Spears, Zach Charbonnet, which, I like when I see Charbonnet with the fall, just given his uncertainty. Mike Washington Jr. and Jordan James. So two early running backs, Tracy, who we should feel fairly good about his role, and then just tacking on guys, trying to get some value there. And yeah, I think that's a fine strategy. JSN, Nico, Devonta Smith, Marvin Harrison. So 4 receivers in the top 70 picks. That's why you go 7 with young guys like Tesla, Manor, and Fields late. So I like how that room came together. Titan, you talked about it in the chat, double tapping Fannin and Laporta, and then adding Barner as part of your stack later. So no, I think that's a very strong room as well. I think that was it from people in the chat. And let's get into, well, let me hit up chat and then we'll get into another draft. Sus checking in. Hope you're doing well, Sus. There's been some light chatter about a Bateman trade, which for his value goes somewhere decent. Probably would be a higher pass volume wide receiver 3 at worst. Yeah, no, that would be good for Bateman, you know, depending on where he goes. But basically any other team's going to throw the ball more than the Ravens. So that could help him out. Excuse me, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see. You know, this is one of those ones, as well as the Ravens are run, we're just so used to them being Harbaugh's team. New coach, new offense coordinator, how they view these guys. You know, I think Lamar, Henry, Andrews, and Flowers are pretty safe, but everyone else, I mean, one likely, and Charlie Kohler are free agents. How they view Bateman, Pontus Walker, like what's their priority? Are they going to bring in a top tier receiver, like a first round receiver, bring in a top tier free agent? Like, what do they do? A lot of different ways they could go. Yeah, I mean, I think Tez Walker is a fine 23rd round click. I do worry again, you know, wasn't this head coach or offense coordinator who had any part of Tez Walker. They could bring in 1 or 2 guys. So I would just keep that in mind. Huhaim's saying he had a hard time with Tesla and myself. I think we talked about this the other day, like definitely the Laporta injury helped a guy like Tesla. But I do think there's no Khalif Raymond going forward. And while I think the 1 and 2 are pretty locked in for Detroit, we're talking about an offense that's going to throw 4,000 plus, and probably more like 4,500 yards, and going to throw 30 plus touchdowns. And again, more like 35 to 40 touchdowns. That's a lot out there. It allows Amon-Ra to get his. It allows JMO to get his. It allows Laporta to get his and still be stuff available. So I don't think Tesla should go much higher than he does. And outside of an injury, he's not going to like suddenly be worth, you know, pick 120. But, you know, the fact that he has a touchdown upside means basically anytime he catches a touchdown, he's going to be usable. So, you know, even if he has 4 or 5 touchdowns next year, that could be 4 or 5 usable weeks. For a guy going in the 170s, 180s, I think that's fine. Yeah, all I do is catch touchdowns. Tesla in the 180s with contingent upside, I'll take a shot any day with Goff stack. And yeah, part of a Goff stack's nice. And that's how I see it. Like, if he was on a worse offense, I'd be more worried. But even though he's buried, you know, I think he's fine. All right, let's get into one more draft here. Third big board of the day. And I'm going to count it down and enter in 10 seconds. Enter in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, enter. All right, looks like we got a fresh room, so sorry if anyone jumped in early. Waiting on 9. So I think it depends on what you're hoping for. Like if you're hoping for that pick in the 180s to be this year's Alec Pierce, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Or Wandale, probably not going to happen. Though again, Wandale needed a lot of things to go right for him to be Wandale. But if you're looking at it like this is a floor play, or I shouldn't say floor play because it's not going to be week in, week out, but a guy who can get me, 4 to 5, 10 plus point weeks. I think Tesla can do that a lot more than some of the other guys in that range. And I got in another draft. I was the last to fill. Sorry. Good luck in that draft. Yeah, he didn't spike. I think his highest was what like 11 points. Let me see. But in part of that, I mean, he was a rookie. So I just feel like I expect with no Khalif Raymond, he just takes on the clear third role. So it looks like 13.2 was his highest, a 10.5, 13.2, 12.4. He does that, 4 or 5 times, absolutely paying off that ADP. It's just he shouldn't be a guy that you expect to get a ton of surplus value. That's why I bring up like the Pearson Wandale is he's not a guy who, even if you can redo the draft in hindsight, you're going to take, like I said, pick 120, pick 100. Those guys, Pearson Wandale, you would have. Now, again, Wandale needed a lot to go right for him for that to occur. I don't know if Wandale produces that level without the Neighbors injury, without the multiple Slayton injuries. But he's fine. So I'm in the third spot. Mulik at the 9th, Mr. Mufasa the 11th. Recognize a lot of other names in here. If you're in the chat, say hi. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm glad I got to the front of the board this time to mix it up a little bit. Mr. Mufasa checking in. What up? What's up, everyone? Doing good. Doing good. This is my third draft. I'll wrap it up after this, but have enjoyed talking ball and drafting with you guys. Let's see how this one starts. Bijan. At 1. Puka goes 2. I'll take Gibbs at 3. I was trying to start with the receiver. I assumed I was going to be debating between Puka and Chase. His ADP usable is fine, but Omar, so rookies, the thing is, like, I understand, I'm a big Omar Cooper Jr. fan, Surratt, who goes a little higher, I'm a big fan of as well, but I do recognize that landing spot is so important, and even sometimes good landing spots. Changed the Keenan Allen kind of slightly nuking Trey Harris, or like the Houston thing, where for whatever reason Xavier Hutchinson was pushing on the field. Like, what if Cooper Jr. goes to a place that has a great slot receiver, and he gets out there, but he gets only 300? He could be looking at the same roughly 300 plus yards as Tesla and not have the same touchdown upside. That is a factor. I do think some receivers taken in that range have more of an upside than Tesla. Let me just bring it up real quick. The rookies are their own thing, but like a Trey Tucker or Trey Harris, like Tesla's right between them. Like, I think both have better paths, and Torrey Horton as well. Those guys have better paths to really spiking and being worth much more than their current ADPs. So that's why I'm a little low in Tesla, and have them a little lower than those guys. But it's not like, I think he's fine for his ADP. It's just these guys, like, if everything goes right for Eilmanor or Horton, Tucker behind him, or guys like DK and Mitchell even, and Trey Harris ahead of him, those guys have paths to be worthy of, this year's Alec Pierce or Wandale. That's what really changes it for me. And yeah, some of the rookies also in that range. I agree. But rookies are, to me, a bit of their own animal. I will say, because of my like of guys like Surratt and Omar, that's the other reason why I don't have a ton of Tesla. So I think he just goes in a tougher range, but I think he's fine. It's just, there's a lot more surplus potential value on the other guys in that range. Ironic, I love them all more than, Calvin Ridley goes higher. Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, those are, I'm taking those guys, and that's why I generally am out of receivers in the 150s. Pat Bryant's okay. Judy, it's fine. Jalen McMillan, it's fine. Honestly, I think Tesla is like Jalen McMillan. It's kind of similar. Even if Mike Evans moves on, McMillan is at best the 3. Jamie probably giving Huheim's nightmares right now. Hey, Huheim, how do you feel about your Omar Cooper shares if the Browns draft him? Oof, yeah, that would not be fun. Let's not wish that into existence. I mean, he's still probably paying off his current ADP, but not exactly giving the extreme value that we could potentially be getting. So definitely won't go Breece Hall here. Jacobs and Ken Walker, but I like Pickens and Olave. So Olave goes. So I get George Pickens. WFN Warehouse saying them's fighting words. Yeah. It's a tough thing with the Browns, and the Browns have 2 first-rounders. I mean, they could really, and obviously an early second, so they could really mess with our hearts if they take a couple. They take like a mean, they could take 2 receivers, let's be honest, which would be a nightmare scenario. And I wouldn't be surprised if they take 1, because right now it's Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond and Cedric Tillman who can't stay healthy. So they need to add to the room. And that is something. My issue with these rookies is basically who they add. I'm probably going to dock quite a bit. Now, that doesn't mean like I'm not, let's say they take Mekhi Lemon. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take any Mekhi Lemon. It's just I want to see him go 10, 15 picks later. And hopefully his ADP will show that. The other news that we saw the other day is so far it doesn't appear like there's going to be any proposals to get rid of the tush push. So it seems like that's here to stay. And good news for Jalen Hurts, good news for Josh Allen. I think as we've seen, Saquon and Cook can still be fine, particularly those offenses are good. It's also good news on a smaller level for guys like Tyler Warren. AJ Barner. Tucker Kraft in the past has been a tush push guy. So could see that as well. Just add an extra touchdown or 2 to those guys. Jamari Thrash too. Yeah, they do. I don't know if they can count on him. Browns and Jets are 2 teams that I am just have very little exposure to right now. Jets are at least, I'm still going to be lower on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, pretty much no matter what. But they somehow end up with an okay quarterback situation. I just don't personally see them getting Kyler, and I don't see Malik Willis going there. So I don't know if they will end up with a good quarterback situation, or at least an average-ish quarterback situation. So that's my concern for the Jets. So we see Rice here go 41. That's definitely better. It's a nice start. James Cook, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams. We'll see if Rice plays or not. If Rice plays, that can be a fun start. Right up in a couple picks. Let's go Terry McLaurin. So Javonte going 37. That's a little high for me. I get it. Knowing he's back for the Cowboys is really good. But not sure I'd love him at 37. Could look Lamar here. I think I'm going to go mix in a rookie. We'll take Lemon. So this team 2023. So yeah, back to talking about the Jets and the Browns. Jets, I actually don't really think they are gonna, sounds like they're keeping Breece Hall. I don't think they're gonna be really targeting any skill rookies early. They have some extra picks as well, so they can be a little creative. But their receiver room, Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie, I'd kind of run with that. Maybe tack on like a 4th rounder, something like that. But I don't think it's going to be a top priority. Obviously, Mason Taylor should be a tight end. And Breece Hall is their top running back. I don't really presume them adding anything. So I don't think they're going to impact the rookie market as much as I worry the Browns do, because I do think the Browns are taking a receiver in the first with one of their first 3 picks. In terms of the early receiver market, I see the Giants mocked a receiver quite a bit. I don't know if they go first round. If so, I think worries that's a little telling on Neighbors. I could see 2nd round for the Giants. I think first round, Saints and Washington are more likely. Some of the earlier picks. I don't know if the Dolphins will. That would be a bad landing spot for one of the top 3 rookie receivers. So I'm hoping not. Saints and Washington, I think, can both be fun. Obviously, gotta like Kellen Moore. Gotta like what we saw from Chuck down the stretch. Olave will be the alpha, but they have nothing else at the receiver position. Kind of the same in Washington. It's Terry McLaurin and right now Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane. So, and they don't even have a tight end. Saints have a tight end and have a back who can catch the ball. Washington doesn't have either. So they were to draft one of these top guys, I think that would be a good landing spot for the rookie receiver. A.D. Mitchell, Hall of Famer before the catch. I mean, if there was just a getting open, if you got fancy points for getting open, man, I mean, generational talent. We'll take another DK Metcalf share. It is, where'd Jaden go? Yeah, it's 61. Sometimes early on, you get Jaden back into like the 70 range. I was kind of hoping for that when I took Terry, but that's a tougher needle to thread. But excuse me. I just don't think drafting a receiver, that's not going to change the Jets' trajectory. Drafting one early. All right, let's. So Pearsall goes. Tight end's an option. Running back, I can wait. I'll just pull up Dak. tough to pull them up when I like Caleb and Hurts definitively right there. But the stack is available. Just was not going to come back. Huheem saying he's instantly better than Judy. Going back to our Cooper Jr., that's, I think, true. And yeah, part of drafting this early is gambling on landing spots for sure. And same with, projecting these teams and free agents, because like even a situation, like Terry McLaurin or Zay Flowers. Like, I think both these teams are going to add somebody, but who they add becomes very dependent. Like, if Mike Evans goes to either of those landing spots, it hurts those receivers. They should not go 45 and 46. I firmly believe that. Now, taking a rookie, I think it's much more palatable for them still to go in that range. Even a first rounder, but it's just something we need to consider with all these, not all, but with a number of these situations. And things can change quite a bit. If Devontae, if AJ Brown moves on and they don't sign Mike Evans, then Devonta Smith could end up being just a complete steal this round. Tony saying whether Shador burns the kitchen down or not, we'll see. Yeah, I'm still believing the Browns add a veteran quarterback, but I think it's like a second-tier vet to still give a possibility, a door to Shador to start. AD Mitchell and Luther Burden would dominate the getting open league. PFF has Seth McGowan in the top 100 on recent mock. Well, I think a lot of that, I know Trevor Sikkema is Seth McGowan is like his RB3 or RB4. That, I'm sorry, I don't think that's anywhere near consensus. And I also don't think, even if you like him that much, our teams, he's an older back, he's like 25, 24, 25. And our team's really going to draft him that early. He had a serious, felony charge that got him kicked off of Oklahoma. He spent some, solid time in jail, and then he rebounded his career. I think he's a day 3 I just don't see a team spending even a 4th rounder on him. And it's not like he dominated. Like, he had some good games, but at Kentucky, but it's not like he came back to the SEC and just dominated. He kind of average-ish. Still can't forget the AD Mitchell legendary performance against the Rams. Yeah, I mean, cost them 2 touchdowns, 1 dropping one, and then a holding call that cost Jonathan Taylor a long touchdown. I lost I believe that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the finals of first quarter, and was at the finals, and my Jonathan Taylor team needed that touchdown. I believe that's how it was. We'll do another Pitts. I don't hate that. Leaves the door open for 2 tight end build. I think Browns take a wide receiver with their first pick. Yeah, I think that's very live. It's definitely more than a night in jail. I think it was about a whole year for Seth McGowan. And Mitchell in the finals too. Yeah, for me it was what Mitchell cost me for JT, because that was like a 50-yard touchdown run for JT. That's like an 11-point play. Just a massive, massive swing. Let's grab a running back here. I'll go Rico over Algier. I think they're, relatively close. So I like Rico a little better. And I also think I lost one of my favorite eliminator teams. One of my eliminator teams that crushed the first couple weeks, I believe, because of JT. And then Jonathan Taylor had a very average game. And, I lost. And probably would have kept going because right after that, JT kept picking up and having, monster game after monster game. So thank you, Donnie Mitchell. So sitting at 1-3-4-1. Dak, Gibbs, Henry, Rico Dowdle, George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Kai Lemon, and DK Metcalf with Kyle Pitts as my top tight end. So, yeah, that is, as James mentioned, Browns are very live to take a receiver with their first pick. Yeah, that's not going to be a great landing spot, and that's kind of why. And I've said before, I view these three receivers. I'm Tyson's my number one. I go Tyson, Tate, Lemon, but honestly, it's a coin flip, and to me, whether they end up being valuable or not is all dependent if they get the right landing spot. One of them goes to Washington, one of them goes to the Browns. I want the one going to Washington. I think clear number 2 receiver with Jaden Daniels versus, even if they're the number 1 for the Browns, I want the guy who goes to Washington. Have a lot of Monty. Probably should get some more. Even last year, 155 fantasy points, 8 touchdowns. That easily can get back over 10. I've been wondering if he ends up getting traded, which could end up being a better situation, but so far, I haven't heard much in that department. And just going back to the Seth McGowan thing, he's also not a guy I expect to have. At the Senior Bowl, he had a bad fumble. He had a couple of nice runs later. I don't expect he's going to test extremely well. I think probably fine. I could be wrong on that. But that one, I just don't know how he gets to that level. Let us grab the guy Emmett Johnson so I don't lose him. And I'm going to have to decide if I go a quarterback or wide receiver here. These 3 receivers I'm okay with. Higgins as well. Concepcion could maybe take Jake Ferguson and just be done at tight end. I think that's in play. If I wanted another Emmett Johnson share, and did see, only 2 running backs here, 3 running backs, easily could have had him stolen away. Wandale might be the pick here. Shuck's gone. Wandale goes. going to take Jake Ferguson. I think I will. I don't have a ton of him. He kind of goes in this dead range for me at tight end. Usually, very well could stop at 2 unless something falls to me. Like, I don't think I have to go 9 receivers like the last couple drafts. I think my running backs, I'm just, kind of positioning myself for 6. I need 2 more quarterbacks. So I still could go with a 3rd tight end, but this gives me the optionality to only go 2 if I need to. I can see the Browns double dipping at wide receiver and even drafting a running back when they have tons of capital and seems to just be adding talent. Yeah, running back, because obviously Ford's a free agent. I don't know what the new staff thinks on Sampson. I think Judkins is going to be their lead guy. But yeah, Sampson, even as a 4th rounder, might not have a secure role. Wouldn't be what I would do to draft another running back relatively early. But I think the double tapping receiver is very, very live for them. Just because there is a lot of 1st and 2nd round talent, they need it. Jerry Jeudy is fine. But the other ones, like even Isaiah Bond, like part of the reason he went to Cleveland is because of the Tommy Reese connection, from Alabama. And now Tommy Reese is in Atlanta. So, is he very well in, Todd Monken's plans for next season? Cedric Tillman, all his injuries. Just not a lot there. Drafters put up a $1,060 3-man season long where first is $3K. That's interesting. Probably won't be doing that. Not gonna lie, I used to do a lot of 3 and 4-man sit and goes a lot before I became a real best ball bro. Not for 1K entry, that's insane, but they were fun. Those sit and goes I used to do. I have the last 2 years I really haven't done any, but before that I used to do a lot of those, like those small, like 6-man drafts and stuff. It just obviously is a big time commitment. They have 3 early picks and they should only look wide receiver and O-line. Yeah, their big thing is the O-line, because essentially their entire O-line is free agent. I heard they might bring back Bitonio, but the rest of them are probably walking. All right, Willis goes. Let me take Mendoza. Don't really need tight end. If Dubs isn't there, probably go with one of these running backs. If one gets back to me. If not, then I'll just take Cam Ward. Don't think, as much as I like Goddard or Strange and think that's a value, don't think I'm going to go down there. But yeah, the Browns should be, like Huheem says, should be very much wide receiver O-line focused. So they, truly, you can make the case they should take 3 offensive linemen. I don't think they will, but I think it's at least 1 and 1, and then the other position gets the 3rd pick as well. I think it's a tier break here, so I'll take Romeo Dubs. He's my 5th wide receiver. I'm saying if they had a $10 one or something, I'd be up for the Hoover streams. Nice. And it says there's $11. Interesting. I think the Jets snap pick Tyson or Lemon if they fall to 16 weeks draft class, and that would mean other positional targets are gone. Yeah, probably. I just don't. I don't think it's a priority for the Jets. Like, you know, part of their return for Sauce Gardner was Adonai Mitchell, and he looked fine. I think John Mechie actually looks even better. And of course they have Garrett Wilson. I would hate to see them take one of those receivers. Could it happen? 100%. But I do think Suss's point here is right, that if one of those three fall there, it's because the Jets' other targets are gone. Jets are in a tough situation because they really don't need offensive line. Offensive line shouldn't be a priority for them. Vera Tucker is a free agent, but they've invested so heavily in the offensive line in recent years that that's a range that they could go. I do think there's going to be corners there, and I imagine with Trainway Sauce that becomes a top priority. Could be an edge, could be D tackle with Trainway Quentin Williams. I think they should focus on defense. I know they need to fix their offense, but you're not going to give quarterback this draft. And your receiver room would be better, but how much so? And is it worth it? Just given their priorities. So if they get to that range and one of those receivers are there, I think they'd be smart to try and trade back, because teams behind them, like the Bills probably aren't trading up in the top 10 for a receiver. But if Jordan Tyson is sitting there at 16, I don't care if it's divisional, like you make the trade, or the 49ers, or, someone else. Like the Patriots. Again, who cares if it's divisional? So they have a $1.10, $5.50, and $11 versions of the 3-man. Interesting. Yeah, I mean those can, like I said, those can be fun, because obviously there's not the big paydays of these big tournaments, but if you're a strong drafter, and want to mix in that as part of your portfolio, that's like the cash game version. Take Sean Tucker here. So 2.552. Receiver's a little thinner than I like. I mean, I take Franklin a lot. It's an infield with need for it there. I'm just not a big Michael Penix fan. I think they're bringing in competition. DK here. Could take Katron Allen and be done at running back. I don't do that too often. I think I'll do that. So I'll go back to the board and then get back to chat. Like saying, don't give out too much round one alpha, Steve. You don't want to have everyone duping you in the Fanspeak draft contest in April. Saying these rumors about Penix and his lack of job security have me about to rank him in the Rodgers Cousins tier. I mean, that's where I have him ranked. My worry with Penix is even if Stefanski really likes Penix and says, I think I can work with him. Penix is coming off his third ACL in the last 6 years. That's a lot. And it might be let's be very cautious with him. And so he might not be ready to start the year, or any little injury and they shut him down. Because I don't know if the Falcons are really contending this year. So I just worry. I think it depends on what they do in free agency. Like if they bring in obviously they're bringing in Malik Willis or Kyler Murray. It's really bad for Penix. But if they bring in a quarterback like Joe Flacco, that's probably good for Penix. But Flacco does have experience with Stefanski and could fill in the role. But if they are, feeling more aggressive, even a Geno Smith could be a bad sign for Penix. Yeah. Yeah, he starts with the Falcons and he jumps to Carolina, because Andy Dalton is not the answer when Bryce Young goes down. No, I agree, Huhames. I have very little Michael Penix, and probably going to keep it that way until after the free agency portion. If they really punt off free agency and bring in Carson Wentz, then I'll feel much better about it. But even a Joe Flacco could hold on to that job for quite a while. And they're one of those teams where another guy with Kevin Stefanski connection, let's say the Cardinals either keep Kyler or what is highly rumored, they're going to be in on Malik Willis. They could then trade both, be trading both Kyler and Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett has a history with Stefanski. So Jacoby Brissett or Penix, Stefanski might go with Brissett. I have 9.7%. I thought I had more. I mostly tack him on as a third quarterback. Yeah, that's the tough thing. That's partly, I'm much lower on him at his ADP. Let's take Io Manor. I think there's a little tier break here. So just focused on 3 positions. I think I will be going to the 3-6-8-3. If Hawkinson gets there or Helm, we'll consider that. Also could wait. We do Hawkinson. Not sure what will end up being, but I think there's definitely some value there. So I was asking if the Falcons get Brissett, do we move Kyle Pitts back to ADP 41? Yeah, no, obviously, I think that would be good for Kyle Pitts. Honestly, my biggest concern with Kyle Pitts right now is who's the quarterback. Now, I still contend that Trey McBride, it was less just Brissett versus Kyler and more of Brissett with no running backs. They're trotting out Zonovan Knight and DeMarcado every week. Not gonna be something you lean into. Bijan is going to be Bijan. So, but no, to your point, Brissett would be a very positive outlook for Kyle Pitts for sure. So Youngmula takes Kyle Williams. I like Hawkinson's price. I realize that I don't have a ton of him, so that's the other reason why I wanted to make that pick. So Rodgers does go. I mean, I thought it was a long shot for him to come back, but would have been my top priority. Really just focused on these two positions now. A little thinner than I'd like at receiver. I think it's okay. This is because if it's a little thinner, I definitely don't want McClellan going to the Browns. I don't take a lot of Jacoby Brissett just because I do worry he could just be a backup. I think that's much more live than most people make it out to be. Aileen Cousins, it's probably a better starting option. Shador, so probably taking one of those three though. Like Jacoby Brissett's somebody who, and yes, he'll probably move up, but if he does go somewhere where it's pretty clear he's starting, he will move up, but it's not like he's going to move up to 140 or 130. He's going to move up to like 170. So I don't mind continuing to just take the value there. There's no receiver that jumps out. I think I'll take just one of these three. Quarterbacks, I'll go Cousins. I think he's got truly probably has the best chance to be starting. And even if you say Shador has a better chance to start, Cousins is going to be in a better situation, should be in a better situation. So making my last two picks, now just taking receiver. Take Bashir. It's a stack. Definitely paths where he's the 2 or the 3 receiver for the Raiders. I think they add 1 receiver, but I don't know how much more aggressive they get beyond that. I'm guessing most of their focus is on the offensive line. Nobody I feel like I need to pull up. See what gets back to me. So Young Mula is sitting at 2583 and Mr. Mufasa at 3672. Both about to make their last 2 picks. So I just want to thank everyone for joining me here, everyone for liking this episode, drafting, commenting. Of course, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We appreciate that. When we get to 1,000 subs, we are going to do a 24-hour live stream. Could maybe wait till after the NFL draft, just so maybe there's more contests to draft from. We'll have to figure that out. But yeah, appreciate everyone's support. As always, you can become a YouTube member, help us out that way. And of course, our Substack, one-time payment for a full year, and you can do a 7-day free trial. Check it out. We also have a free Discord in the description below. Mike saying we're 2 legs away from 50. So yeah, would love to hit the 50 mark. Absolutely helps us out. And also, after the stream, if you want to drop a comment, that can help the good old YouTube algorithm as well. All right, I'm coming up in my last pick. Definitely locked into a receiver here. And young Mula just took his Devontae Walker with the last round. You know, I've taken him once or twice. Definitely don't hate that. Not sure what receiver I'm targeting here. Probably not Jacoby Lane. Like Chris Belmore if it's a 9 receiver build. Ted Hurst maybe. Slayton maybe. Jalen Naylor's a free agent, could end up in a better landing spot. Not a lot of people talking about him. Might go Luke McCaffrey. Even if Washington's adding somebody, I think one of McCaffrey or Lane could end up being relevant. So I've said I want to have a shot or two at them. I do Terry McLaurin, so it's like a team build. Yeah, this area of wide receiver is not the most fun. No, not Dante Thornton. Let's take Jalen Naylor. Don't have a lot, but you know he's played well these last 2 years, and could end up into a little better role. So I end up 3683, Dak, Fernando Mendoza, and Kirk Cousins. I should at least have 2 quarterbacks, if not a third, with Cousins. Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Rico Dowdle, Emma Johnson. Really strong top 4 running back room, in my opinion. Sean Tucker, who I think is a good number 2 with touchdown upside, and Katron Allen, probably the role that he's looking at the next level. So I think that is good. I rarely, do a 6 running back build where I'm taking all 6 before pickle, that early. That left me with George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Kai Lemon, DK Metcalf. Love that top 4. I like the value I'm getting at Romeo Dubs. I mean, I'm 10 picks past ADP, and I think you can make the argument he should go 10 picks ahead of ADP. Eligio Manor, I think he's fine picking that range. Jack Besh, somewhat due to stack, but also second-year guy similar to Io Manor. Could be in line for a bigger role. And then Jalen Naylor, free agent. We'll see if there's value there or not. Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, and TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson almost definitely either cut or traded. But now we know Pitts is back, so I feel even better about that. And then, we'll see where Hawkinson ends up. Let's see. We had Young Mula in this draft at the 9th spot, 2594. Josh Allen, Jordan Love. Then he went Genty, Hampton, so the double second-year guys. Actually, another second-year guy in Monangai. Trey Benson, Braylon Allen. I have my concerns about Trey Benson, but I understand it's a murky running back room, so taking some shots there. So as much as I love that double anchor, I do worry kind of end up, this could quickly become a 3 RB team. If Benson could get cut, and Braylon Allen, if Breece Hall's back, it's okay, but just not as, if we know Hall's gone, then Braylon Allen is a lot more value. So generally, I don't mind those guys. It's like I would probably add a 6 there, but Jameson Williams, Christian Watson, Rome Dunze, Rashid Shaheed, Travis Hunter, Donnie Mitchell, Kyle Williams, Marvin Mims, and Devontae Walker. So really, didn't take any super early. Still got 3 kind of in a row here. Shaheed, I think, is a nice pick as well. Hunter, that debate is going to be long lasting, but just a lot of youth and upside with this group. Hunter, Mitchell, Kyle Williams, Marvin Mims, and then Walker. So hopefully a couple of those guys develop to go along with your top end core, which I do think is a solid core for not even taking one too early. 4 tight ends, Fannin, Dalton Kincaid, Terrence Ferguson, Pat Frymuth. I've definitely done some 4 tight end builds, probably not when I'm taking, guys so early. I think you're fine with the top 3. If you just felt like Frymuth is too good of a value, I get it. I probably would have gone a 6 running back there over the 4th tight end. But, I don't think there's anything wrong with mixing up the builds and, taking some shots there. And I do think you're getting value on a guy like Frymuth too. This is a guy who has had, 2 top 12 tight end finishes in the last 4 years. We're taking him in the 19th, 20th round. Definitely seems like some value. So Mr. Mufasa goes 3, 6, 8, 3. Herbert, Kyler Murray, and Michael Penix. We talked about Penix. He did get a 10 pick ball on Penix, which is nice. Travis Etienne, Swift, Jadarian Price. So 3 running backs I think you feel pretty confident about. Ja'Cory Crosky, Merritt, path to a bigger role. Emmanuel Wilson, Ray Davis, 2 of my favorite, backup running backs that you can still get pretty late. Just because, most backup running backs with this kind of upside and pedigree, particularly in good offenses, go like where Sean Tucker went, and or Kamani Vidal in the 160s, 170s. So I like that you're getting them, 30, 40 picks later. Lamb, Jefferson, Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Elijah Surratt, Christian Kirk. So, the double stack with Herbert, double Tampa stack. If Evans leaves, then you're getting value of both these guys. If Evans stays, then I'd worry a little bit about McMillan, but that's why we're drafting these teams now, to make some of these stands, make some of these bets. Overall, I think the wide receiver room is strong, particularly that top 3. You just have real alpha potential with all 3 of those guys. And then tight end room, Gadsden getting part of your stack, Travis Kelce, and then tacking on Chig, who is a free agent. We'll see where he ends up. But again, 20th round, click on guys like 19th, 20th round, click on guys like Chig and Frymuth. Feel nice. That's why I'm very much late tight end. Let me hit up chat and then we'll get on out of here. Kicks checking in. Great stream, Steve. Appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. As Mike had mentioned, 2 more legs to 50. Let's get the man there. Appreciate that. GAB, strong team out of 3 hole. Thank you. No, that was a fun draft. Hey, 3 of us can make it from this room. Hopefully it's the 3, you, Mr. Mufasa, and I. So appreciate everyone for joining. All the support. I'll be back tomorrow. Should be at 1 again, and then I'll be on Huhaim's channel afterwards for more good best ball debate. We'll be focusing on combine players, and we will go from there. GAB saying I don't have many 13 wide receiver tight end personnel. It's my 13 personnel for best ball. Gotcha. No, hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and I will catch you tomorrow.